Captain Jake Morrison sat at the long metal table inside the alien ship. The room was too bright for his eyes, and the air smelled like flowers mixed with metal. Across from him sat 3 aliens who looked like tall, thin lizards with smooth, gray skin. Their eyes were large and black, and they moved their heads in quick, bird-like motions. The biggest alien was named Zektar. He was some kind of ambassador for something called the Veloci Empire. Next to him sat 2 other aliens who had not said their names. They just stared at Jake with their dark eyes and made soft clicking sounds with their mouths. Captain Morrison. Zektar said in perfect English. His voice was high and musical. "We have called this meeting to discuss your people's recent actions in the Kepler system." Jake kept his face calm, but inside he felt angry. The humans had found the Kepler system 3 years ago. It had 4 planets that could support human life. Now 3 million people lived there, building homes and farms and new cities. The aliens were acting like humans did not belong there. "What actions?" Jake asked. "We found empty planets and made them our homes. We did not take anything from anyone." The alien made a sound like a bird laughing. "Captain, you are new to space travel. You do not understand how things work out here. The Veloci Empire has ancient claims to all systems in this region. Your people must leave." Dr. Lisa Martinez sat next to Jake. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. She had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she leaned forward. "Ambassador Zektar," she said carefully, "can you show us proof of these claims? Our scans showed no signs of alien presence on any of the planets." The 3 aliens looked at each other and made more clicking sounds. Then Zektar turned back to the humans. "Dr. Martinez, your people have been in space for less than 50 years. The Veloci Empire has ruled this region for over 10,000 years. We do not need to prove our claims to children who just learned to walk among the stars." Jake felt his hands make fists under the table. He had been a soldier before he became a ship captain. He knew when someone was trying to push him around. "Ambassador," Jake said, his voice steady, 3 million human beings live in the Kepler system. They have built homes, schools, and hospitals. They have children who were born there. We cannot just tell them to leave." Zektar's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. "Captain Morrison, you speak as if you have a choice in this matter. The Galactic Coalition has rules about new species. You must follow these rules." "What rules?" Dr. Martinez asked. No one told. "You was about any rules when we first made contact 6 months ago." The second alien finally spoke. His voice was even higher than Zektar's. "New species must show respect to older species. They must accept guidance from those who have wisdom. Your people act like they own the galaxy." Jake stood up slowly. He was much taller than the aliens, and they all looked up at him with what might have been fear in their black eyes. "We own the worlds we found and settled," Jake said. "We did not take them from anyone. We built cities where there were only empty rocks and dirt." Zektar also stood up, but he was still shorter than Jake. "Captain, you do not understand. Space is not like your home world. Out here, strength matters. The Veloci Empire has thousands of ships. How many ships do you humans have?" Dr. Martinez looked worried. She knew the answer. Earth had maybe 200 ships that could fight, and most of them were small. The aliens probably had more ships than humans had people. "The number of our ships does not matter," Jake said. "What matters is that we will not abandon our people." The third alien, who had not spoken at all, suddenly made a loud hissing sound. The other 2 aliens looked at him, and he made more clicking and hissing sounds. Zektar nodded and turned back to Jake. "Captain Morrison, my military advisor reminds me that this discussion is pointless. The Veloci Empire will send ships to the Kepler system in 3 days. Your people will have 72 hours to leave. If they do not leave, we will remove them. Remove them? Dr. Martinez asked. What does that mean? It means whatever is necessary, Zektar said. His voice was cold now, not musical anymore. Your people can leave alive, or they can leave dead. The choice is yours. Jake felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. These aliens were threatening to kill human families, human children, human babies who had never hurt anyone. And if we refuse? Jake asked. Zektar tilted his head like a bird looking at a worm. Captain, your people have been in space for 50 years. We have been here for 10,000. You have a few hundred ships. We have thousands. What do you think will happen? Dr. Martinez touched Jake's arm. She was trying to tell him to stay calm, to not do anything stupid. Jake was already thinking about the 3 million people in the Kepler system. He was thinking about the families, the schools, the farms that people had built with their own hands. Ambassador Zektar, Jake said slowly, I think you do not know humans very well. The alien made his bird-laughing sound again. Captain, we know everything we need to know. You are a young species. You are weak. You will do what you are told. Jake looked at the 3 aliens for a long moment. Then he walked to the communication panel on the wall and pressed a button. This is Captain Morrison to the Liberty. Prepare for immediate departure. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. Captain, Zektar said, sounding surprised. Are you refusing to discuss this further? Jake turned back to the aliens. Ambassador, I am going to send a message to my government. I am going to tell them that you plan to attack human colonies and kill human families. Then we will see what happens. The aliens looked at each other again, making their clicking sounds. They seemed confused, like they had not expected Jake to react this way. Captain Morrison, Zektar said, you are making a mistake. The Galactic Coalition has rules about new species who cause trouble. If you fight us, other species will join against you. Jake walked toward the door. Dr. Martinez followed him. At the doorway, Jake turned back one more time. Ambassador, maybe you should learn more about humans before you threaten us. We do not like bullies, and we do not abandon our people. As they left the alien ship, Dr. Martinez grabbed Jake's arm. Jake, what are you doing? They have thousands of ships. Earth cannot fight the entire Galactic Coalition. Jake looked at her with hard eyes. Lisa, they just threatened to kill 3 million people. They think we will run away like scared children. Maybe it is time to show them what humans do when someone threatens our families. Back on the Liberty, Jake sat in his captain's chair and began typing a message to Earth. The message was simple. Diplomacy has failed. Request immediate military support. The aliens do not understand what they are dealing with. As the Liberty jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward Earth, Jake thought about the surprised looks on the aliens' faces. They expected humans to be weak and frightened. They were about to learn that they were very, very wrong. 3 weeks later, 12 alien ships appeared at the edge of the Kepler system. The ships were beautiful, with smooth curves and bright metal that shone like mirrors in the light of the system star. Each ship was about as long as a city block and moved through space like graceful dancers. Fleet Commander HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Will. He was taller than Ambassador Zektar, with darker gray skin and gold marks painted on his forehead. His uniform was covered in medals and symbols that showed his high rank. Sub-Commander Krelty, HFY said to his second-in-command, report on the human colonies. Krelty was younger than HFY, with lighter gray skin and nervous movements. He looked at his screen and made soft clicking sounds before speaking. Commander, we detect approximately 3 million humans spread across 2 planets. The planet they call New Kansas has most of their farms and food production. New Oregon has their main cities and manufacturing centers. Dexva nodded. And their military forces? Very small, Commander. We see perhaps 50 civilian ships, most of them cargo vessels. There are some automated defense platforms around each planet, but they appear to be designed for protection. Against asteroids, not warships. Dexva made a sound like purring. This was going to be easier than he had expected. The humans had no real military presence in the system. Their defense platforms were toys compared to Veloci weapons. Open a communication channel to all human settlements. Dexva ordered. The main screen flickered and then showed the face of a human woman. She had short brown hair and wore a simple blue uniform. Her name tag read, Governor Sarah Walsh. I am Governor Walsh of New Kansas, the woman said. Her voice was steady, but Dexva could see fear in her eyes. What do you want? Governor Walsh, Dexva said in his most commanding voice. I am Fleet Commander Dexva of the Veloci Empire. You and your people have 72 hours to evacuate. This is not a request. This is an order. The human woman's face went pale. Commander, this is our home. We have families here, children who were born on these worlds. We cannot just leave everything we have built. Governor, your people were told to leave. They chose to ignore that warning. Now you have no choice. Evacuate or face the consequences. The woman looked off screen, probably talking to someone else. When she looked back, her face was harder. Commander, we need more time. 72 hours is not enough to evacuate 3 million people. We need at least 2 weeks. Dexva laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Governor Walsh, you have exactly 72 hours, not 1 minute more. He ended the communication and turned to his crew. Begin standard intimidation procedures. I want those humans to understand that we are serious. But as the hours passed, something strange happened. Instead of preparing to surrender, the humans began doing something the Veloci had never seen. Before, all the civilian ships in the system started moving away from the planets at maximum speed. They were not running away completely, but they were moving to safe distances. At the same time, the automated defense platforms around both planets began powering up. More platforms appeared, rising from hidden locations on the planet's surfaces. Within hours, each planet was surrounded by hundreds of small defense stations. Commander, Kralty said, his voice worried. The humans are not behaving as expected. They are not preparing to evacuate. They are preparing to fight. Dexva looked at the tactical display. The human defense platforms were tiny compared to his warships, but there were many of them. More importantly, they were arranged in patterns that suggested military thinking, not civilian panic. Sub-Commander, they are frightened civilians playing with toys. Their weapons cannot harm real warships. But Kralty was studying his sensors more carefully. Commander, I am detecting some unusual readings. The humans appear to be using technology. That is not in our databases. Impossible, Dexva said. They have been in space for less than 50 years. We have been monitoring their development. They do not have advanced weapons technology. On the planet New Oregon, Governor Walsh was talking to her military advisor, Colonel Ryan Carter. Carter was a big man with short gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. He had been a soldier on Earth before coming to the colonies. Governor, Carter said, the automated defenses are online. We have 600 platforms around New Oregon and 400 around New Kansas. They are not much against real warships, but they will buy us time. Time for what? Walsh asked. Earth is 3 weeks away, even with the fastest ships. The aliens will not wait that long. Carter smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Governor, Earth got Captain Morrison's message 3 weeks ago. They have had time to respond. I think help is coming. What kind of help? The aliens have 12 warships. Earth's entire fleet is maybe 200 ships, and most of them are small patrol vessels. Governor, there are things about Earth's military that the colonies do not know. Things that were kept secret for good reasons. I think the aliens are about to get a surprise. Meanwhile, on the Veloci flagship, Junior Analyst Vexpol was staring at his long-range sensors with growing alarm. He was the youngest member of the crew, with pale gray skin and no medals on his uniform. Most of the senior officers ignored him, but he was very good at reading sensor data. Sub-Commander Krelty, Vexpol said, his voice shaking. I am detecting an energy signature approaching the system. Krelty looked annoyed. Analyst, we are busy. What kind of energy signature? Sir, it is unlike anything in our databases. The power output is enormous. It suggests a vessel much larger than anything we have encountered. Krelty made clicking sounds of dismissal. Analyst, check your equipment. The humans do not have large warships. You are probably detecting an asteroid or space debris. But Vexpol looked at his readings again. The energy signature was getting stronger, and it was definitely artificial. Whatever was coming toward the system was huge, powerful, and moving faster than anything in the Veloci fleet. Sub-Commander, I really think you should look at this. The energy signature is consistent with a warship at least 2 kilometers long. Now Krelty was paying attention. 2 kilometers? That is impossible. Show me the data. Vexpol put the sensor readings on the main screen. The energy signature was clear and getting stronger. Whatever it was, it would reach the system in less than 6 hours. Krelty took the data to Commander Vexva. Commander, our analyst has detected something approaching the system. A large energy signature, possibly a warship. Vexva looked at the data and made dismissive sounds. Sub-Commander, this is obviously a sensor error. The humans do not have ships larger than our smallest patrol vessels. This reading suggests something the size of a battleship. Commander, what if it is not a human ship? What if another species is intervening? Vexva considered this. It was possible that another member of the Galactic Coalition was sending a ship to observe the situation. But no other species had ships that large either. Sub-Commander, continue monitoring. If there is a ship approaching, we will deal with it when it arrives. For now, focus on the human colonies. But as the hours passed, the energy signature grew stronger. Whatever was coming was not just large, it was massive. And it was definitely heading directly for the Kepler system dot in the deep space between stars. The USS Vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The ship was enormous, a black wedge of metal and weapons that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It was over 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that had never been seen outside of Earth's most secret military facilities. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood looking at the tactical display. She was a woman, in her 50s with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her uniform was simple and practical, with no decorations except for her rank insignia. Admiral, her tactical officer said, we have 12 alien vessels in standard formation around the human colonies. They appear to be Veloci Empire ships, medium cruiser class. Sullivan nodded. Communications. Open a channel to the colonies. Let them know help has arrived. The face of Governor Walsh appeared on the screen. When she saw Sullivan, her eyes went wide with relief. Admiral Sullivan, Walsh said, thank God you are here. The aliens have given us 72 hours to evacuate. We have maybe 6 hours left. Governor Walsh, Sullivan said calmly, you and your people are under the protection of the Terran Defense Force. No one is evacuating. We are here to make sure of that. Admiral, there are 12 alien warships. How many ships do you have? Sullivan smiled, and it was not a gentle smile. Governor, I have one ship. But it is enough. On the Veloci flagship, Vexpol was staring at his sensors in disbelief. The energy signature was now close enough to resolve clearly, and what he was seeing was impossible. "Commander Vexva," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, you need to see this. The approaching ship is not just large. It is massive. And it is definitely human." Vexva looked at the sensor data and felt something cold settle in his stomach. The human ship was larger than his entire fleet combined. Its energy output was beyond anything in Veloci technology, and it was heading straight for them. "Sub-Commander Kralti," Vexva said, his voice no longer confident. "Prepare the fleet for possible combat, and send a message to Veloci Command. Tell them we may ha." The USS Vengeance appeared at the edge of the Kepler system like a dark shadow against the stars. The ship was so large that it blocked out entire sections of space behind it. Its hull was black as night, with no bright colors or decorations. It looked like it was built for one purpose: war. On the bridge of the Veloci flagship, Commander Vexva stared at the tactical display in complete silence. The numbers on his screen had to be wrong. The human ship was showing as 2.3 kilometers long, with a mass greater than his entire fleet combined. Its energy output was so high that his sensors kept giving error messages. "Sub-Commander Krelty," Vexva said, his voice much quieter than before. "Are these readings correct?" Krelty was looking at his own display, his large black eyes even wider than usual. "Commander, I have run the scans 3 times. The human vessel is definitely that large. And sir, it is armed with weapons we do not recognize." Junior Analyst Vexpol was working frantically at his station. "Commander, I am trying to identify the ship's weapon systems, but they do not match anything in our databases. The energy signatures suggest weapons far more powerful than anything we have encountered." Vexva felt his confidence cracking. The Veloci Empire had been the dominant military force in this region for thousands of years. Their ships were the most advanced in the galaxy, but the human vessel made his entire fleet look like toys. "Communications," he ordered. "Open a channel to the human ship." The main screen flickered and then showed the bridge of the human vessel. A woman in a simple military uniform stood in the center, her gray hair pulled back and her face calm. Behind her, Vexva could see other humans working at stations that looked far more advanced than anything on his ship. "I am Fleet Commander Vexva of the Veloci Empire," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Identify yourself." The human woman looked directly at him with cold eyes. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force. You are threatening human colonies and civilian populations. Explain yourself." Vexva had expected the human to be afraid, to show respect for his superior numbers. Instead, she spoke to him like he was a child who had misbehaved. "Admiral Sullivan, the Veloci Empire has ancient claims to this system. Your people were ordered to evacuate. They have refused. We are here to enforce that order." Admiral Sullivan's expression did not change. "Commander, 3 million human citizens live in this system. They have built homes, schools, and communities here. They are not leaving, and you are not going to. Make them leave. Admiral, you have 1 ship. I have 12. Perhaps you should reconsider your position." Sullivan smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Commander, you are correct. I have 1 ship. But let me explain something to you. This is the USS Vengeance. It was built specifically to deal with threats to human colonies. It carries enough firepower to destroy every ship in your fleet without breaking a sweat." Vexva looked at his tactical display again. The human ship was certainly large, but 12 ships should still be able to defeat one, no matter how big it was. "Admiral, your ship is impressive, but numbers matter in space combat. I suggest you withdraw now, before the situation becomes unpleasant. Sullivan leaned forward slightly. Commander Thexva, I am going to give you one chance. You have exactly 1 hour to leave this system. If you are still here after that time, I will consider your presence an act of war against the human colonies. Admiral, you cannot be serious. 1 ship against 12? Commander, I am completely serious. You have 1 hour. Use it wisely. The communication ended, and Thexva found himself staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew was looking at him with worried expressions. The human admiral had spoken to him like he was no threat at all. Sub-Commander Krelty, Thexva said, what is your assessment of the human vessel? Krelty looked at his tactical displays. Commander, the ship is definitely larger and more heavily armed than anything in our fleet. But it is still just one ship. If we coordinate our attack, we should be able to overwhelm its defenses. And if we are wrong? Sir, if we withdraw now, the Veloci Empire will look weak. Other species will think they can challenge us. We have to fight. Thexva knew Krelty was right. The Veloci Empire had built its reputation on strength and fear. If they ran from one human ship, their enemies would see it as weakness. Very well, Thexva said. All ships prepare for combat. We will show these humans what happens when they challenge the Veloci Empire. On the USS Vengeance, Admiral Sullivan was talking to her senior officers. Her tactical officer was Commander Lisa Hayes, a woman with short blonde hair and quick, intelligent eyes. Her weapons officer was Lieutenant Colonel Bobby Martinez, a man with dark skin and steady hands. Admiral, Commander Hayes said, the alien ships are moving into attack formation. They appear to be preparing for coordinated assault. Sullivan nodded. They are going to test us. Colonel Martinez, are all weapon systems online? Yes, Admiral. Railguns, plasma cannons, and missile systems are all ready. The main cannon is charged and ready to fire. Good. Commander Hayes, what is your assessment of the alien fleet? Ma'am, they have 12 medium cruisers, probably about 400 meters long each. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, with some kind of energy torpedoes. Against most ships, they would be formidable. Against us, they are not much of a threat. Sullivan looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were, indeed, moving into attack formation, spreading out to surround the Vengeance. They were following standard tactics for multiple ships, attacking a single large target. Admiral, the communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the planet New Oregon. Governor Walsh wants to speak with you. Put her on screen. Governor Walsh's face appeared on the screen. She looked worried and frightened. Admiral, there are 12 alien warships out there. Are you sure you can handle them alone? Maybe we should evacuate after all. Governor Walsh, Sullivan said calmly, no one is evacuating. Your people are safe. The Veloci are about to learn that threatening human colonies is a very bad idea. But Admiral, 12 ships against one. Governor, the Vengeance was not built to fight fair. It was built to win. Trust me. The communication ended, and Sullivan turned back to her crew. All hands, prepare for combat. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for 3 million human colonists who are depending on us. On the Veloci flagship, Thexva was giving his final orders. All ships, target the human vessel's engines and weapon systems. We will disable it, not destroy it. I want to capture some of their technology. Commander, Vexpol said from his station, I am still reading energy signatures that do not make sense. The human ship's power output is far higher than should be possible for its size. Analyst, focus on your duties. We have 12 ships. They have 1. The mathematics are simple. But as the Veloci fleet moved into position, something strange happened. The human ship did not try to maneuver away from them. It did not try to use its superior speed to avoid being surrounded. Instead, it simply hung in space, waiting. "Sub-Commander Krelty," Dexter said, "why is the human ship not moving?" "Perhaps they are surrendering, Commander. Or perhaps they are planning something." Dexter looked at the tactical display. The human ship was now completely surrounded by his fleet. Every weapon in the Veloci formation was pointed at it. But somehow, he did not feel like he was winning. "All ships," he ordered, "prepare to fire on my command. Target their weapons and engines. We will end this quickly." On the Vengeance, Admiral Sullivan was watching the alien ships take their positions. "Commander Hayes, they are spreading out to surround us. Classic multi-ship tactics." "Yes, Admiral. They are trying to overwhelm us with fire from multiple directions," Sullivan smiled. "They are thinking like they are fighting a normal ship." "Colonel Martinez, prepare the defensive systems. Let them make the first move." "Admiral, are you sure we should let them shoot first?" "Colonel, I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone threatens human colonies. Let them fire. Then we will show them what real firepower looks like." In the Veloci fleet, Commander Dexva was ready to give the order to attack. His ships were in perfect position. The human vessel was surrounded and outnumbered. In a few minutes, this would all be over. "All ships," he said, "fire at will. Destroy the human ship." The space around the Vengeance erupted in light and energy as 12 Veloci warships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, energy torpedoes, and particle beams all converged on the human vessel. The barrage was so intense that it lit up the darkness of space like a small sun. When the energy discharges faded, the Veloci crew expected to see the human ship destroyed, or at least badly damaged. Instead, they saw the USS Vengeance hanging in space, completely undamaged. Its shields had absorbed the entire attack without even flickering. "Impossible," Dexva whispered. "No ship can withstand that much firepower." On the Vengeance, Admiral Sullivan was looking at the damage reports. "Commander Hayes, shield status?" "Shields at 98%, Admiral. Their attack barely scratched us," Sullivan nodded. "Colonel Martinez, I think it is time to return the favor. Target their flagship. One shot. Show them what they are dealing with." "Yes, Admiral." Main railgun locked on target. Sullivan looked at the tactical display one more time. The alien ships were hanging in space. The USS Vengeance fired one shot. The main railgun of the human warship launched a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole. The rod was accelerated to nearly 20% the speed of light, turning it into a weapon that could punch through a moon. It covered the distance to the Veloci flagship in less than 2 seconds. Commander Dexva saw the flash of light from the human ship. Then his world exploded. The tungsten rod hit the dominant will's shields and went through them like they were made of paper. It punched through the ship's armor, traveled the entire length of the vessel, and came out the other side. The flagship did not explode in a dramatic ball of fire. Instead, it simply broke apart like a toy that had been stepped on. The bridge section tumbled away into space, its lights flickering and dying. The engine section spun slowly, trailing atmosphere and debris. The middle of the ship was just gone, turned into a cloud of metal fragments and frozen air. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Sullivan watched the destruction with no expression on her face. "Commander Hayes, damage assessment of the enemy." "Flagship? Admiral, the target has been completely destroyed. I am reading life pods launching from the debris. Some of the crew survived." "Good. Colonel Martinez, target the next ship in their formation. But do not fire unless they continue to attack." On the remaining Veloci ships, the crews were staring in shock at what was left of their flagship. Sub-Commander Krelty, who had been on the bridge of the second ship, was now the senior officer of the fleet. His voice shook as he spoke into his communicator. All ships, cease fire immediately. Do not fire on the human vessel." But it was too late. 3 of the Veloci ships had already launched their second attack, sending plasma torpedoes and energy beams toward the Vengeance. The human ship's shields absorbed the attack just as easily as before. "Admiral," Colonel Martinez said, "3 ships have fired on us again." "Orders?" Sullivan looked at the tactical display. "Target all 3 ships. Disable them. Do not destroy them. I want their crews to live to tell others what happened here." The Vengeance fired 3 more railgun shots. Each shot was carefully aimed to disable rather than destroy. The first shot took out the engines of a Veloci cruiser, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. The second shot destroyed the weapon systems of another ship. The third shot punched through the bridge of the last attacking ship, killing its command crew, but leaving the rest of the vessel intact. In less than 30 seconds, the Vengeance had destroyed 1 ship and disabled 3 others. The remaining 8 Veloci ships hung in space, their crews too shocked to move. Sub-Commander Krelty opened a communication channel to the human ship. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Admiral Sullivan, we surrender. Please, no more shooting." Sullivan looked at the alien on her screen. The sub-commander's gray skin had turned pale, and his large black eyes were wide with fear. "Sub-Commander," she said calmly, "I am not interested in your surrender. I am interested in your understanding. Do you understand what just happened? Here, Admiral, we did not know. Our intelligence was wrong. We thought humans were a weak species, new to space travel. We did not know you had ships like this. Sub-Commander, you threatened to kill 3 million human colonists. You said you would remove them from their homes, alive or dead. Did you think there would be no consequences?" Krelty made soft clicking sounds of distress. "Admiral, the Veloci. Empire has been the dominant power in this region for thousands of years. We have never encountered a species that could challenge us. We thought... you would be afraid." Sullivan leaned forward in her chair. "Sub-Commander, let me explain something to you. Humans are not afraid of bullies. When someone threatens our families, our children, our homes, we do not run away. We fight back, and we fight to win. Admiral, what do you want from us? I want you to leave this system and never come back. I want you to send a message to your empire and to the Galactic Coalition. Tell them that human colonies are under the protection of the Terran Defense Force. Anyone who threatens them will face the consequences." Krelty nodded quickly. "Yes, Admiral, we will leave immediately." But Sullivan was not finished. "Sub-Commander, I am going to send a boarding party to your ship. They will escort you to a neutral station where you can meet with human diplomats. It is time for a new understanding between our species." "A boarding party?" Krelty's voice was filled with panic. "Admiral, please, we will cooperate. There is no need for violence. Sub-Commander, this is not about violence. This is about making sure you understand what you are dealing with." 20 minutes later, a shuttle launched from the Vengeance and docked with the lead Veloci ship. The airlock opened, and Colonel Ryan Carter walked through, followed by 6 human Marines in full combat armor. The Veloci crew had never seen humans up close before. They were shocked by how large the humans were. Colonel Carter stood nearly 2 meters tall, and his armor made him look even bigger. His face was covered by a helmet with glowing red eyes, and his voice came through a speaker that made it sound deep and menacing. "I am Colonel Carter of the Terran Defense Force," he said as he walked onto the Veloci bridge. "Which one of you is Sub-Commander Krelty?" Krelty stepped forward, his body shaking. He was much smaller than the human colonel, and Carter's armor made him look like a metal giant. "I am Sub-Commander Krelty," he said, his voice barely audible. Carter looked down at the alien officer. Even through his helmet, Krelty could feel the human's eyes studying him like a predator looking at prey. "Sub-Commander, I am here to escort you to a diplomatic meeting. You will come with me peacefully, or my Marines will carry you. Your choice." Krelty looked around at his crew. The other Veloci were pressing themselves against the walls, trying to stay as far away from the humans as possible. The human Marines stood perfectly still, but their weapons were ready, and their red helmet eyes seemed to see everything. "Colonel Carter," Krelty said, "we will cooperate. Please do not hurt my crew." Carter's helmet turned toward the alien crew. "Sub-Commander, we are not here to hurt anyone. We are here to make sure you understand the new reality. Humans protect their own. Anyone who threatens human colonies will face the consequences." One of the Veloci crew members, a young officer with very pale skin, stepped forward. "Colonel, may I ask a question?" Carter turned his attention to the young alien. "Speak. Sir, how did you build such a powerful ship?" "Our intelligence said humans have been in space for less than 50 years. Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Officer, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have been building weapons to kill each other since we learned to make fire. When we reached the stars, we did not forget how to fight. We just learned to fight in space." The young officer's eyes grew even wider. "But Colonel, the Galactic Coalition has rules about warfare. There are limits to how powerful weapons can be. Officer, humans did not sign those rules. We were not part of the Galactic Coalition when those agreements were made. We build our weapons to protect our people, not to follow someone else's rules." Sub-Commander Krelty was beginning to understand. "Colonel, you are saying that humans have been preparing for war this entire time?" Carter nodded. "Sub-Commander, humans hope for peace, but we prepare for war. When your empire threatened our colonies, we were ready. But how many ships like the Vengeance do you have?" Carter's helmet turned back toward Krelty. "Sub-Commander, that is not information I can share. But I will tell you this. The Vengeance is not the only ship of its kind, and it is not the most powerful ship in the human fleet." The Veloci crew made sounds of distress. If the Vengeance was not the most powerful human ship, then what did the humans have that was even stronger? "Colonel," Krelty said, "we made a mistake. We did not understand what we were dealing with. The Veloci Empire will withdraw from this system and will not threaten human colonies again." "Sub-Commander, that is a good start. But words are not enough. You will come with me to a neutral station where you will meet with human diplomats. You will help us establish new rules for how our species interact. And if we refuse?" Carter looked around the bridge at all the Veloci crew. "Sub-Commander, you have seen what one human ship can do. Do you really want to find out what happens if you refuse to cooperate?" Krelty shook his head quickly. "No, Colonel. We will cooperate completely." As the humans escorted Sub-Commander Krelty back to their shuttle, the remaining Veloci crew watched in silence. They had come to this system thinking they were the strongest military force in the galaxy. Now they knew they were wrong. On the shuttle back to the Vengeance, Krelty sat in silence, thinking about what had just happened. His empire had ruled this region of space for thousands of years. They had never been challenged, never been defeated. In less than an hour, one human ship had destroyed their entire understanding of power in the galaxy. "Colonel Carter," he said, "finally, may I ask you something? Speak. How long have humans been planning for this? How long have you been preparing for war with the Galactic Coalition?" Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Sub-Commander, humans have been preparing for war since the first time we looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. We hoped we would find friends, but we prepared to find enemies. And now? Now the galaxy knows that Huma. 2 weeks after the battle at Kepler, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at Crossroads Station, a neutral trading post that sat at the border between several different alien territories. The station was huge, with sections built by dozens of different species. It had been chosen as the meeting place because no single government controlled it. Sub-Commander Krelty stood in the main conference room, looking nervous. Around him sat representatives from the Galactic Coalition, the tall, bird-like Axtani, the floating jellyfish-like Zeref, the crystalline Vorthan, and many others. At the other end of the table sat 3 humans. The lead human negotiator was Ambassador Daniel Hayes, a man in his 60s with white hair and careful eyes. Next to him sat Dr. Lisa Martinez, who had been at the original failed negotiations weeks earlier. A third human was Colonel Ryan Carter, still wearing his military uniform and looking like he was ready for another fight. Representatives, Ambassador Hayes said, his voice calm and professional. We are here to discuss the new reality in our galaxy. Recent events have shown that previous assumptions about human capabilities were incorrect. The Axtani representative, a creature that looked like a giant golden bird, ruffled its feathers nervously. Ambassador Hayes, the Galactic Coalition has maintained peace for over 5,000 years. We have rules, agreements, ways of handling disputes. What happened at Kepler was ... unprecedented. Representative Caxty, Hayes replied. What happened? At Kepler was the result of someone threatening to kill 3 million human colonists. We responded appropriately. A Zeref representative, floating in a tank of blue liquid, pulsed with colored lights that translated into words. Ambassador, the Veloci Empire has filed a formal complaint. They claim that human weapons violate the Galactic Warfare Accords. No species is supposed to possess weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Representative Velinosh, humans were not part of the Galactic Coalition when those accords were signed. We were not consulted about limits on defensive capabilities. We built our ships to protect our people, not to follow agreements we never agreed to. Sub-Commander Krelty, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Representatives, I was there. I saw what the human ship did to our fleet. The USS Vengeance destroyed our flagship with 1 shot. 1 shot. No species in the galaxy has that kind of power. The Vorthan representative, a creature that looked like a walking crystal sculpture, made sounds like ringing bells. Sub-Commander, are you saying that humans have been hiding their true capabilities? Representative Quintal, Krelty said, humans have been preparing for war while we thought they were playing at exploration. Their ship was not just bigger than ours. It was more advanced than anything we have ever seen. Ambassador Hayes nodded. Representatives, humanity has been alone in the galaxy for our entire history. We have fought wars, built weapons, and learned hard lessons about survival. When we reached the stars, we brought that knowledge with us. But Ambassador, the Axtani representative said, surely you understand that your military capabilities upset the balance of power in the galaxy. Other species will be frightened. They will think humans are a threat. Colonel Carter spoke for the first time. Representative Caxty, humans are only a threat to those who threaten us. We did not attack the Veloci Empire. We did not invade their territory. We defended our colonies from their aggression. Colonel, the Zeref representative pulsed. Your ship could have disabled the Veloci fleet without destroying their flagship. Why did you choose to kill? Carter's face became hard. Representative Velinosh, the Veloci Empire threatened to kill human families, human children. They said they would remove our people from their homes, alive or dead. We responded with the minimum force necessary to end that threat. The minimum force. Sub-Commander Krelty's voice was high with disbelief. "Colonel, you destroyed our most powerful ship with one shot." "Sub-Commander," Carter replied, "we could have destroyed your entire fleet with one shot. We chose to show restraint." The room fell silent. The alien representatives looked at each other with growing alarm. If the humans could have destroyed the entire Veloci fleet with one shot, then what else were they capable of? Ambassador Hayes stood up. "Representatives, I think it is time for some honesty. Humanity has been in space for less than 50 years, but we have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. We hoped we would find friends among the stars. We prepared to find enemies. And what did you find?" The Axtani representative asked. "We found both," Hayes replied. "The Galactic Coalition has many species that want peace, cooperation, and mutual benefit. But we also found species like the Veloci Empire, who think strength gives them the right to bully others." Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with human colonies marked in blue and Galactic Coalition territories in various other colors. "Representatives," she said, "humans currently control less than 1% of the galaxy's inhabitable worlds. We are not interested in conquest or empire. We want to build homes, raise families, and live in peace. But we will not be pushed around by anyone." The Vorthan representative chimed like crystal bells. "Dr. Martinez, what happens now? How do we move forward with this new understanding?" Ambassador Hayes sat back down. "Representative Quintal, we propose new agreements. First, recognition of human sovereignty over our current colonies. Second, establishment of clear rules for interaction between human and alien territories. Third, mutual defense agreements with species that want peace." "And if species refuse these agreements?" the Zerif representative asked. Colonel Carter answered. "Representative Vilanash, species that refuse peaceful cooperation will be left alone as long as they leave us alone. Species that threaten human colonies will face the consequences." Sub-Commander Krelty looked around the table at the other representatives. "I must tell you all something. The human ship we faced, the USS Vengeance, was not alone. Our long-range sensors detected at least 3 other ships of similar size in nearby systems. And Colonel Carter told me that the Vengeance was not the most powerful ship in the human fleet." The alien representatives made sounds of distress. If humanity had multiple ships like the Vengeance, and even more powerful ships, then the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. "Representatives," Ambassador Hayes said, "humanity does not want war. We want peace, trade, and cooperation. But we will not be victims. We will not allow our people to be threatened or our colonies to be attacked." The Axtani representative spoke carefully. "Ambassador Hayes, what you are describing sounds like an ultimatum. Accept human terms or face human weapons." "Representative Caxti," Hayes replied, "what I am describing is reality. Humanity has arrived in the galaxy. We are not going anywhere. Other species can choose to work with us, or they can choose to ignore us. But they cannot choose to threaten us without consequences." Dr. Martinez added, "Representatives, humans are not unique in the galaxy. Every species here has weapons, armies, and the ability to defend itself. What makes humans different is that we are very good at it. We have had thousands of years of practice." The meeting continued for hours, with representatives from different species asking questions and raising concerns. But by the end of the day, several things were clear. First, humanity was now a major power in the galaxy, whether other species liked it or not. Second, human colonies were under the protection of one of the most powerful military forces anyone had ever seen. Third, species that wanted peaceful relations with humanity would be welcomed, but species that threatened human interests would face severe consequences. As the meeting ended, Sub-Commander Krelty approached Ambassador Hayes privately. "Ambassador," he said, "I need to ask you something. How many ships like the Vengeance do humans really have?" Hayes looked at the alien officer with steady eyes. "Sub-Commander, that is classified information. But I will tell you this. Earth has been preparing for first contact for over a century. We have built our defenses accordingly. Ambassador, the Veloci Empire has ruled this region for thousands of years. We have never been challenged. What happens now?" "Sub-Commander, what happens now is that your empire learns to coexist with humanity. You can choose to be our neighbors, our trading partners, even our friends. Or you can choose to be our enemies. But you cannot choose to treat us like weak children who can be pushed around." As the representatives left Crossroads Station, each carrying news of the new galactic reality back to their home worlds, Sub-Commander Krelty sent a message to the Veloci Empire. "High Command, humanity is not what we thought. They are not weak, they are not afraid, and they are not going anywhere. We must adapt to this new reality, or we will face the same fate as the dominant will." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Bobby Harrison received a report from Admiral Sullivan. The USS Vengeance had completed its mission successfully. The Veloci threat had been neutralized, and the galaxy now understood that humanity was not to be trifled with. "Admiral Sullivan," Harrison said over the communication link, "excellent work. The colonies are safe, and the galaxy has been put on notice. How do you assess the situation going forward?" Sullivan, now back on Earth for debriefing, looked thoughtful. "Admira." Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the command center in Geneva. Officers ran to their stations. Something big was happening. "Admiral, we have an incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Sarah Bell. Her voice was shaking. "It's not from any human ship." Jake put down his coffee cup. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen his communications officer look so scared. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered. Then a face appeared that made everyone in the room step back. The creature had gray skin like old leather. Its eyes were bright yellow and very large. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am Ambassador Kethfor of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. I speak for Emperor Zervanus, ruler of 12,000 star systems. We address the primitive species known as humans." Jake felt his blood turn cold. First contact with aliens. This was the moment Earth had been preparing for since they started traveling to other worlds. But this was not how anyone had imagined it would happen. "Your species has spread like a disease across sacred worlds," the alien continued. "You have built colonies on planets that belong to the Empire. You have disturbed the natural order of the galaxy. This cannot continue." The alien's yellow eyes seemed to stare right through the screen. "The Emperor has decided to show mercy. You have 72 standard hours to surrender completely. Remove all humans from the disputed worlds. Accept your place as servants of the Empire. Do this, and your species will be allowed to live." Jake's hands gripped the arms of his chair. Around him, officers whispered to each other in shock and fear. "If you refuse," Kethver said, "we will destroy every human world. We will burn your cities. We will turn Earth into ash and dust. Your species will become extinct. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The screen went black. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. "Get me President Carter," Jake ordered. "Right now." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. President Lisa Carter sat at the head of a long table. Around her were the most important people on Earth. Military leaders, scientists, and politicians filled every seat. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Carter said, "we all saw the transmission. We have less than 3 days to make the most important decision in human history." General Mike Rogers, head of Earth's Space Forces, spoke first. "Ma'am, we don't know how many ships they have. We don't know their weapons. We don't know anything about their technology. This could be a bluff. Or it could be real," said Dr. Amy Richardson, Earth's top scientist. "Our deep space sensors have detected massive energy signatures moving toward our outer colonies. Something very big is coming." Jake stood up. "With respect, we're looking at this wrong. The question isn't whether they can destroy us. The question is whether we're going to let them." Secretary of Defense Paul Grant shook his head. "Admiral, be realistic. If they control 12,000 star systems, they must have billions of ships. We have maybe 300 combat vessels total. So what?" Jake replied, "Our ancestors faced impossible odds before. They still fought. They still won sometimes." President Carter held up her hand for silence. "Admiral Morrison, what would resistance look like? Give me facts, not emotions." Jake activated the holographic display above the table. A 3-dimensional map of human space appeared. 47 star systems glowed blue. "We have 2 advantages," he said. "First, we know our territory better than they do. Second, humans are good at adapting. We can change our tactics quickly. Most galactic empires probably can't." "That's not much," said Secretary Grant. "It's what we have," Jake replied. "Look, I've studied every military campaign in human history. David beat Goliath. Small forces have defeated big ones before, but only when they refused to give up." Dr. Richardson leaned forward. "There's something else. We've been working on new weapons, experimental technology. If we had time to finish the research, ... How much time?" President Carter asked. "Months, maybe a year." "We don't have months," Jake said. "We have 3 days." An aide entered the room and whispered something to President Carter. Her face went pale. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Our colony on New Texas just went dark. No communications, no signals." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens weren't waiting 3 days. They were already attacking. Captain Ryan Blake burst into the room. He was young for a starship commander, but his ship was Earth's newest and most advanced. "Ma'am, the USS Defiance is ready for launch. My crew is standing by." President Carter looked around the table. "Recommendations?" "Surrender," said Secretary Grant. "Save as many lives as possible." "Fight," said Jake. "Die free rather than live as slaves." President Carter closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was clear. "Secretary Grant, begin evacuation of civilian populations to the inner colonies. Dr. Richardson, you have whatever resources you need for your research. Admiral Morrison, prepare our forces for war." She stood up. Everyone else stood with her. "Send a message to this Ambassador Cuthfer," she said. "Tell him we received his ultimatum. Tell him we have an answer for his emperor." "What message, ma'am?" asked the communications officer. President Carter smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Tell them we didn't crawl out of caves and reach for the stars just to kneel before the first bully we meet. Tell them humanity has an answer to their demand. And what answer is that? We're sending warships." The room erupted. Some people cheered. Others looked terrified. But everyone understood that Earth had just declared war on a galactic empire. Jake Morrison felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear, yes, but also excitement. Humanity was about to face its greatest test. Win or lose, they would face it standing up. The countdown to war had begun. The moment President Carter declared war, Every human military base in the galaxy came alive. Sirens wailed. Lights flashed. Soldiers ran to their posts. The largest military operation in human history had begun. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in Fora, the war room, watching dozens of screens showing activity across human space. Ships were launching from every planet. Weapons factories were working around the clock. Everyone knew they were preparing to fight an impossible war. "Status report," Jake called out. Lieutenant Sarah Bell read from her tablet. "We have 237 combat ships ready for action. Another 50 ships are being pulled out of maintenance. Earth's orbital shipyards are working to finish 12 new vessels." "Not enough," Jake muttered. "What about the colonies?" "Mixed responses, sir. Some are evacuating civilians. Others are refusing to leave. New Austin says they're going to fight." Jake nodded. He expected that. Humans were stubborn. It was one of their best and worst qualities. Captain Ryan Blake entered the room. His uniform was dirty, and he looked tired. "Admiral, the USS Defiance is ready. My crew has been training for 36 hours straight." "Good. How many other ships are ready?" "For the reconnaissance mission?" 12, sir. All volunteers." Jake looked at the young captain. Ryan was only 32 years old, but he was the best ship commander in the fleet. More importantly, he was creative. In the coming war, creativity might matter more than firepower. "Captain, your mission is simple. Find their fleet. Learn everything you can about their ships and weapons. Then get back here alive." "Yes, sir. There's just one thing." Ryan hesitated. "My crew knows this is probably a one-way trip. They're all staying." Anyway, Jake felt proud and sad at the same time. That's what makes us human, Captain. We don't run from fights we can't win. Across the room, Dr. Amy Richardson was working at a computer terminal. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Her gray hair was messy, and her eyes were red from staring at screens. But she was making progress. "Doctor," Jake called to her, "how are the new weapons coming?" Amy looked up from her computer. "I have good news and bad news. The bad news is we can't build enough quantum disruptors to arm all our ships. The good news is we figured out how to make them work." "How many can you build?" "Maybe 20, 30 if we're lucky." Jake sighed. 20 weapons against thousands of alien ships. But it was better than nothing. "There's more," Amy continued. "We've been studying the alien transmission. Their ships seem to use energy shields. Our quantum disruptors should be able to break through them." "Should?" "We've never tested them against actual alien technology." "We're guessing." Jake smiled grimly. "Doctor, this whole war is a guess. We're guessing we can win. We're guessing we can survive. One more guess won't hurt." Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Austin, Peter Harris was having the worst day of his life. As the civilian administrator, he was supposed to organize evacuations. Instead, he was organizing resistance. "I don't care what Earth Command says," shouted Mayor Tom Wilson. "This is our home. We're not running." Peter looked around the crowded town hall. Farmers, miners, teachers, shopkeepers, all of them ready to fight aliens with military technology beyond their understanding. It was crazy. It was also very human. "Folks," Peter said, "I understand how you feel, but we're talking about an alien empire. They probably have weapons we can't even imagine." "So what?" called out Susan Wright, the schoolteacher. "My great-grandfather fought in World War III with nothing but an old rifle. Sometimes you have to fight even when you can't win." The crowd cheered. Peter realized he wasn't going to change their minds. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe they were right. "Okay," he said. "If we're going to fight, let's fight smart. We'll hide the children in the underground shelters. We'll set up defensive positions around the town. And we'll make these aliens pay. For every inch of ground. Back in space, Captain Ryan Blake was leading his small fleet toward the edge of human territory. His ship, the USS Defiance, was humanity's most advanced vessel. It had experimental engines, new weapons, and the best crew in the fleet. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, his tactical officer, "I'm picking up massive energy signatures ahead. Whatever's out there, it's big." Chief Engineer Maria Santos spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting at least 50 ships, maybe more. They're huge. Each one is bigger than our largest battleship." Ryan felt his stomach drop. 50 ships was bad enough. But if each ship was bigger than humanity's best vessels, the odds were even worse than they thought. "Take us closer," he ordered, "but stay hidden. We need to see what we're dealing with." The USS Defiance moved carefully through the asteroid field at the edge of the system. Ryan watched the main screen as alien ships came into view. They were enormous. Each one looked like a floating city. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange lights pulsed along their sides. "My God," whispered Alex, "how many people are on those ships?" "Thousands," Maria replied. "Maybe tens of thousands each." Ryan studied the alien formation. The ships were arranged in perfect lines, like soldiers on parade. Everything was organized and orderly. No creativity. No surprise movements. Just overwhelming force arranged in traditional patterns. "Alex, are you seeing this?" "Yes, sir. They're fighting like it's still the 20th century. Big ships, straight lines, predictable formations. They're not used to fighting equals." Ryan realized they're used to fighting primitives who surrender immediately. He activated the ship's recording systems. "Document everything. Ship designs, weapon placements, formation patterns. If we're going to fight them, we need to understand them." For 6 hours, the USS Defiance watched the alien fleet. Ryan's crew mapped every ship, counted every weapon, and recorded every tactical movement. The aliens never changed their formation. They never sent out scouts. They just moved forward in their perfect lines, confident that nothing could challenge them. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "I think I know how we can hurt them." "How?" "There." Not expecting a real fight. Look at their formation. It's designed to look impressive, not to fight a war. Their biggest ships are in front, protecting nothing. Their smaller ships are spread out too far to support each other. Ryan nodded. "They're bullies. They're used to winning through intimidation." "Exactly. And bullies don't know how to handle someone who fights back." Ryan made his decision. "All ships, begin recording everything. We're going home with intelligence that might save humanity." As the USS Defiance prepared to leave, Ryan took one last look at the alien fleet. 50 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a human city. But they were also predictable, overconfident, and unprepared for real resistance. "This is going to be the hardest fight in human history," he told his crew. "But we can win. We just have to be smarter, faster, and more determined than they are." The small human fleet turned toward home, carrying information that would change everything. Behind them, the alien armada continued its slow, confident advance toward Earth. The war was about to begin. 3 days had passed since the alien ultimatum expired. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching enemy ships approach Saturn's moons. The first battle between humans and the Zephyrian Empire was about to begin. "Enemy fleet is entering weapons range," reported Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner. 50 ships, just like our reconnaissance showed. They're maintaining formation. Ryan studied the tactical display. The aliens were moving in perfect straight lines toward Titan, Saturn's largest moon. They expected to sweep aside any human resistance and continue toward Earth. They were wrong. "Chief Santos, Are the modifications ready? Ryan asked. Maria Santos grinned from her engineering station. All systems are online, Captain. The aliens are about to get a big surprise. Ryan had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. His small fleet of 20 ships was hidden in Titan's thick atmosphere. The aliens couldn't see them coming. More importantly, the aliens didn't know what humans were capable of when they fought for their lives. All ships, this is Captain Blake, he announced over the communication system. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who refuses to kneel. Sub-Commander Velther of the Zephyrian fleet was bored. In 300 years of service, he had never faced real resistance. Primitive species always surrendered when they saw the might of the Empire. These humans would be no different. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we're detecting some energy signatures near the large moon. Probably mining equipment or communication. Satellites. Velther barely looked up from his reports. Destroy them. Clear the area for our advance. The Zephyrian ships opened fire. Powerful energy beams lanced out toward Titan. They hit what looked like mining platforms and communication arrays. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Targets eliminated, the tactical officer reported. No signs of military resistance. That's when everything went wrong. The explosions near Titan weren't from destroyed human equipment. They were from mines. Hundreds of nuclear mines that had been placed in the asteroids around Saturn. The blasts sent chunks of rock and metal flying at incredible speeds toward the alien fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Velther shouted, but it was too late. The debris cloud hit his perfect formation like a giant shotgun blast. Smaller alien ships were torn apart. Larger ones had their hulls punctured and their shields overloaded. Before the aliens could recover, the USS Defiance and her sister ships burst out of Titan's atmosphere. Ryan had positioned his fleet perfectly. The human ships came from above, below, and both sides, surrounding the confused alien formation. Fire everything. Ryan ordered 20 human ships, opened fire at once. Their weapons were smaller than the aliens' guns, but they were faster and more accurate. More importantly, they were targeting the right spots. Ryan's crew had studied the alien ships for days. They knew exactly where to hit. The lead alien ship, Velther's flagship, took a direct hit from the USS Defiance's main cannon. The blast punched through its shields and tore a hole in its hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a bright stream. Impossible, Velther screamed. How are they penetrating our shields? The answer was Dr. Amy Richardson's quantum disruptors. 20 human ships had been equipped with the experimental weapons. The disruptors didn't just break through alien shields. They made them collapse completely. But the aliens had advantages too. Their ships were bigger, stronger, and had more powerful weapons. When they finally organized a counterattack, human ships started dying. The USS Courage took a direct hit from an alien energy beam. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness. 12 human crew members died in an instant. Captain, Alex Turner shouted over the noise of battle. We're losing ships fast. The aliens are adapting to our tactics. Ryan watched. 3 more human ships get destroyed. His surprise attack had worked, but now the aliens were fighting back with overwhelming firepower. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned. All ships execute Plan Delta. Ryan ordered. Plan Delta was insane. It was also very human. Instead of trying to fight the aliens in traditional space combat, the human ships started ramming attacks. Small, fast human vessels accelerated to full speed and crashed into the giant alien ships. The impacts were devastating for both sides, but humans were willing to sacrifice themselves to win. The USS Defender, commanded by Captain Lisa Park, drove her ship straight into the side of an alien battleship. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Earth. Both ships were destroyed, but the alien vessel took 200 crew members with it. They're insane. Velther shouted as he watched another human ship prepare for a suicide run. What kind of species destroys itself to win a battle? His tactical officer had no answer. In 300 years of Zephyrian expansion, they had never encountered a species that preferred death to surrender. Ryan watched his fleet die around him. 15 human ships were gone. Only 5 remained, including the USS Defiance. But they had destroyed or badly damaged 20 alien ships. The remaining 30 alien vessels were retreating, trying to regroup. "Captain," Maria Santos reported, "we're down to emergency power. Weapons are offline. Life support is failing." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Ryan looked at the tactical display. The aliens were pulling back, but they weren't running. They were regrouping for another attack. When they came back, they would be ready for human tactics. "Alex, can you get a message to Earth?" "Yes, sir. Emergency transmission is ready." Ryan activated the communication system. "This is Captain Blake to Earth Command. First battle is complete. We hurt them badly, but we can't stop the main fleet. They're tougher than we thought, but they're not invincible. Use ramming attacks. Target their shield generators. And remember, they've never fought anyone who refuses to surrender." The transmission cut off as alien weapons found the USS Defiance. The ship's hull cracked and atmosphere began venting into space, but they had done their job. The first battle was over. Sub-Commander Velther looked at the wreckage around him. 20 of his ships were destroyed or heavily damaged. The humans had been wiped out, but they had fought like demons. They had used tactics no civilized species would consider. "Send a message to Fleet Commander Zarthul," he ordered. "Tell him we won the first battle, but these humans are not like other species. They don't surrender. They don't retreat. They fight until they die. What should we tell him about our losses?" Velther looked at the debris field that had once been proud Zephyrian warships. "Tell him we need reinforcements." Many reinforcements. The Battle of Titan was over. The aliens had won, but they had learned something that would haunt them for the rest of the war. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought to make their enemies pay such a terrible price that victory became meaningless as the surviving alien ships limped toward Earth. Fleet Commander Zarthul received the report. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Fleet Commander Zarthul stared at the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. After the battle at Titan, he had expected to find a broken, defenseless planet. Instead, he found a fortress. "This is impossible," he muttered. How did they build so many defenses in just 2 weeks? The answer was simple. Humans worked like no other species in the galaxy. When their survival was threatened, they became capable of incredible things. Every man, woman, and child on Earth had worked without rest to turn their home system into a weapon. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center deep under Earth's surface. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored the defenses they had built. The moon was covered with massive railguns. Mars had been turned into a giant minefield. Even the asteroid belt was now a weapon. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell, "alien fleet is approaching the outer defenses. 2,000 ships." "Just like our scouts reported," Jake nodded. 2,000 ships against Earth's 300 remaining vessels. The numbers were terrible, but humans had advantages the aliens didn't expect. "Activate the Mars defense grid," he ordered. On Mars, the defense grid came online. But this wasn't what the aliens expected. Instead of traditional weapons, the entire planet had been rigged with nuclear explosives. When the alien fleet moved past Mars, The humans triggered every bomb at once. The explosion was visible from Earth. Mars didn't just blow up. It became a giant shotgun that fired chunks of rock and metal at incredible speeds. The debris cloud caught the alien fleet completely by surprise. "Report," Zarthol shouted as his flagship shook from impacts. "We've lost over 300 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans destroyed an entire planet just to attack us." Zarthol couldn't believe it. They destroyed their own world? Yes, sir. Mars was one of their colony planets. They sacrificed it to damage our fleet. For the first time in his career, Zarthol felt fear. What kind of species destroyed their own planets to win a war? The humans were more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever faced, but the aliens still had overwhelming numbers. 1,700 ships remained, and they were closing on Earth. The planet's defenses were impressive, but they couldn't stop such a massive fleet. "All ships, prepare for final assault," Zarthol ordered. "We end this now." That's when President Lisa Carter made her announcement to the world. "Citizens of Earth, the enemy is at our gates. Today we fight not just for our planet, but for the idea that free people should never bow to tyrants. Every human who can hold a weapon will fight. Every city will be defended. Every mile of ground will cost them dearly." The alien fleet approached Earth's moon. The lunar defense platforms opened fire with everything they had. Massive railguns shot metal slugs at hypersonic speeds. Energy cannons fired continuous beams of destruction. Nuclear missiles streaked across space in their thousands. But the aliens fought back with equal fury. Energy beams from 2,000 warships lit up the darkness. The moon's surface began to glow from the heat of constant bombardment. One by one, the human defense platforms went silent dot in the underground bunkers. Families hugged each other and prepared for the end. But above them, something incredible was happening. Captain Ryan Blake was alive. His ship, the USS Defiance, had been badly damaged at Titan, but Chief Engineer Maria Santos had worked miracles to keep it running. Now Blake led a desperate assault on the alien command ship. "This is insane," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, as their small group of ships charged toward the massive alien flagship. "That ship is 50 times our size." "So was Goliath," Blake replied. "Sometimes the little guy wins." The USS Defiance and 12 other human ships accelerated toward Zarthol's flagship. They were heavily outnumbered, but they had one advantage. The aliens didn't expect a direct assault on their command ship. Marine Colonel Sam Peterson led the boarding party. With him was Lieutenant Kate Morgan, a scientist who had studied alien psychology. They knew this was probably a suicide mission, but they also knew it might be humanity's last chance. Remember, Kate told the Marines as they prepared to board the alien ship, "These creatures have never lost a war. They don't know how to handle defeat. If we can capture their commander, the whole fleet might surrender." The boarding shuttles launched from the USS Defiance. Somehow, they made it through the alien defenses and crashed into the side of the massive flagship. Colonel Peterson and his Marines fought their way through corridors filled with confused alien soldiers. The Zephyrians were skilled warriors, but they had never faced humans in close combat. The Marines fought with a fury that the aliens couldn't understand. They didn't retreat when wounded. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They fought until they died. "Where is your commander?" Peterson shouted at a captured alien soldier. The alien pointed down a corridor with a shaking hand. "The fleet commander is in the central bridge, but you cannot reach him. There are too many guards." Peterson smiled grimly. "Watch us." The Marines fought their way through the ship. Behind them, they left a trail of destruction. Alien soldiers fell back in terror. These humans were like nothing they had ever seen. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the real battle was just beginning. Alien shuttles were landing in every major city. Zephyrian soldiers expected to find cowering civilians. Instead, they found Armed Resistance. Peter Harris, the administrator from New Austin, was now leading guerrilla fighters in the ruins of New York. Remember, he told his volunteers, we don't have to win every battle. We just have to make them pay for every building, every street, every room. The urban warfare was brutal. Aliens had better weapons and armor, but humans knew the territory. They used sewers, subway tunnels, and building basements to launch surprise attacks. Every block became a battlefield dot in the alien flagship, Colonel. Peterson and his remaining Marines finally reached the central bridge. Zarthul stood surrounded by his officers, watching the battle for Earth on multiple screens. Fleet Commander, Peterson said, pointing his weapon at the alien leader. You're coming with us. Zarthul laughed. You cannot win, human. Even if you kill me, you have lost. Your planet is burning. Your people are dying. Your resistance is meaningless. Lieutenant Kate Morgan stepped forward. That's where you're wrong. You've ruled the galaxy for so long that you forgot something important. Freedom isn't about winning or losing. It's about choosing how you live and how you die. What do you mean? We mean that even if you destroy Earth, you haven't won. Every species in the galaxy is watching this battle. They're seeing that the mighty Zephyrian Empire can be hurt. They're learning that resistance is possible. Zarthul looked at the screens showing the battle. Human cities were burning, but humans were still fighting. They had lost thousands of ships, but they were still shooting. They were facing certain death, but they wouldn't surrender. You're all insane, he whispered. Maybe, Kate replied, but we're free. At that moment, Dr. Amy Richardson's quantum disruptors finally proved their worth. The experimental weapons had been installed on Earth's remaining ships. When they fired all at once, they created a feedback loop that overloaded the alien fleets. Shield generators. Suddenly, the massive alien ships were vulnerable. Earth's remaining defenses opened fire with everything they had. Without their shields, even the largest alien vessels began to take damage. Sir, Zarthul's tactical officer reported, we're losing ships across the entire fleet. The humans have found a way to penetrate our shields. Zarthul looked at the humans who had captured him. Then he looked at the screens showing his fleet in trouble. For the first time in his life, he was seeing the impossible. His empire was losing a war. Signal the fleet, he said quietly. Begin withdrawal. Sir, his officer asked in shock. You heard me. We're leaving. The alien fleet began to pull back from Earth. They had won the battle, but they had lost something more important. They had lost the belief that they were invincible. As the alien ships retreated, the humans who remained alive looked up at the sky. Their cities were in ruins. Millions had died, but they were still free. Admiral Morrison spoke to what remained. Of humanity. We're hurt, but we're not beaten. Today we proved that freedom is worth any price. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. And someday we'll make sure this never happens again. The siege of Earth was over. The war was just beginning. 1 month after the siege of Earth, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's victory had spread to every corner of Zephyrian space. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire was facing rebellion. Emperor Zervanus sat on his throne in the capital city of Zephyria Prime. The ancient ruler had never experienced defeat. His empire spanned 12,000 star systems. His fleets had conquered 200 different species. But now, for the first time, his subjects were questioning his power. Your Majesty, reported his aide, 3 more systems have declared independence. The Kepler colonies, the Vega mining worlds, and the Centauri trade stations. They're all refusing to pay tribute. The Emperor's clawed hands gripped the arms of his throne. How many ships do we have left? After the losses at Earth, we have approximately 15,000 combat vessels. But many are needed to guard our own worlds. Some planets are in open revolt. Zervanis had ruled for over 3,000 years. He had never seen his empire so weak. And it was all because of one small blue planet and its stubborn inhabitants. On Earth, the reconstruction was remarkable. Humans had a talent for rebuilding that amazed even themselves. The cities that had been destroyed were already being rebuilt. New shipyards were under construction. Most importantly, Earth was building the largest military force in human history. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the new command center in Geneva. Through the windows, he could see the construction of massive space elevators that would help launch the new fleet. Earth would never be caught defenseless again. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell, "we're receiving communications from 17 different star systems, all former Zephyrian colonies. They're asking for our help." Jake smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. What kind of help? Military advisors, weapons technology. Some are asking for direct military support against Zephyrian forces. And what does President Carter want to do? She wants to help them all. Jake looked at the star charts showing the galaxy. Red dots showed Zephyrian-controlled systems. Blue dots showed human space. But now there were green dots, systems that had declared independence from the Empire. "Sarah, send a message to all the rebel systems. Tell them Earth stands with anyone who chooses freedom over slavery. Tell them we'll share our technology and our tactics. Tell them the age of the Zephyrian Empire is ending." On the distant world of Kepler 442b, Resistance leader Thander received Earth's message. His people had been slaves of the Empire for 2,000 years. They had forgotten what freedom looked like. But the humans had reminded them. "My friends," he announced to his followers, "the humans have shown us that the Empire can be beaten. They've offered to help us fight. Today, we stop being slaves. Today, we become free." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were remembering their independence. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed eternal, was crumbling. Fleet Commander Zarthul was a prisoner on Earth. Humans had treated him well, but he couldn't understand them. In his cell, he watched news reports of the galactic rebellions. Everything he had believed about the Empire was falling apart. Captain Ryan Blake visited him regularly. The human officer wanted to understand how the Zephyrian military worked. But Zarthul found himself more interested in understanding the humans. "Why do you fight?" he asked Blake during one visit. "Your species could have lived peacefully as part of the Empire. You would have been safe." Blake sat down across from the alien commander. "Safety isn't the most important thing. Freedom is. We'd rather die free than live as slaves." "But freedom is chaos," Zarthul replied. "The Empire brings order, peace, stability. The Empire brings fear," Blake said. "You ruled through intimidation. You never had to face anyone who refused to be intimidated." Zarthul was quiet for a long moment. "What will happen now?" "Now we help others find their freedom." "The galaxy is changing, Commander. The age of empires is ending." Dr. Amy Richardson had been working around the clock since the siege ended. Her quantum disruptor technology was being shared with every rebel system. But she was also working on something bigger, a way to end the war permanently. "Admiral Morrison," she called from her laboratory, "I think I've found something important." Jake hurried to her lab. "What is it, Doctor?" "The Zephyrian Empire is built on fear. They maintain control by making everyone believe they're invincible. But we've proven they can be beaten. If we can defeat them in one more major battle, the rest of the galaxy will see that the Empire is finished. What do you have in mind?" Amy activated a holographic display. Intelligence reports say the Emperor is gathering his remaining fleets for one final attack on Earth. Over 10,000 ships. If we can defeat that force, the Empire will collapse completely. Jake studied the display. 10,000 ships against. What we have left, that's impossible odds. Maybe, but we have something they don't have. What's that? Allies. Every rebel system in the galaxy is sending ships to help defend Earth. We're not fighting alone anymore. The final battle began 3 weeks later. Emperor Zurvanus himself led the massive Zephyrian fleet toward Earth. He was determined to crush the humans once and for all. The rebellion had to be stopped before it destroyed his empire. But when the Imperial fleet arrived at Earth, they found something unexpected. The humans weren't alone. Ships from dozens of rebel systems had joined them. Species that had been enemies for centuries were fighting side by side against their common oppressor. Impossible, Zurvanus whispered as he watched the allied fleet form up around Earth. They're supposed to hate each other. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. Your Majesty, we're detecting ships from the Kepler colonies, the Vega mining worlds, the Centauri trade stations, and at least 20 other rebel systems. They're all working together. President Lisa Carter broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. People of all worlds, today we fight not just for Earth, but for the idea that all beings deserve to be free. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long. Today, we show them that freedom is stronger than fear. The battle was the largest in galactic history. 10,000 Zephyrian ships against 3,000 rebel vessels. The odds were still against the rebels, but they had something the Empire lacked. They were fighting for something they believed in. The quantum disruptors worked perfectly. Ship after ship in the Imperial fleet lost their shields and became vulnerable. The rebels used every tactic the humans had learned: surprise attacks, ramming maneuvers, and coordinated strikes on key targets. But the real victory came when Emperor Zurvanus himself was captured. Colonel Sam Peterson led another boarding party that fought their way to the Imperial flagship. When the ancient ruler was taken prisoner, the Zephyrian fleet lost the will to fight. "This is impossible," Zurvanus said as he was led away in chains. "The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. It cannot end like this." Admiral Morrison looked at the defeated Emperor. "Your empire ended the day you underestimated the value of freedom. You thought power came from fear, but real power comes from people choosing to fight for what they believe in." Within hours of the Emperor's capture, Zephyrian forces across the galaxy began surrendering. The empire that had seemed eternal collapsed in a matter of days. 12,000 star systems were suddenly free. The war was over. Humanity had not only survived, but had sparked a revolution that freed the entire galaxy. 1 year later, Admiral Morrison stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered to create a new government based on freedom and cooperation instead of fear and conquest. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," he said, "we gather here not as conquerors, but as partners. The galaxy belongs to all of us. We must work together to make sure that no empire ever again enslaves entire worlds." The council erupted in cheers. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now working together. The Zephyrian Empire was finished, but something better was taking its place. Captain Ryan Blake, now promoted to Admiral, was given command of the new Galactic Defense Force. His job was to make sure that freedom, once won, would never be lost. "Again, the galaxy is free," he told his crew as they prepared for their first patrol mission. "Our job is to keep it that way." President Carter's final words to the human people became famous throughout the galaxy. "We didn't ask to be part of their empire. We didn't ask for this war. But we showed the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for." Whatever comes next, we'll face it as free people. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun. And it all started because when the Galactic Empire ordered Earth's capitulation, humanity sent warships instead.